You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record. All right. Hello, everyone. I am not in New York, but in my mother's house. So if I sound different and am a little discombobulated, excuse me, tonight, I just got off the train. So this should be interesting. Live stream. I wanted to talk today about Wendi Adelson's character makeup, her mindset. We've heard Jeff Lacasse call her a psychopath. I think he's quoting his own therapist, called her a sociopath. He often referred in his police interview to Wendi's lack of empathy, stunning lack of empathy. And Jeff Lacasse said the whole family, the whole Adelson family, what they all shared was that they were callous and showed a stunning lack of empathy. So I was going to look at Tamara Demko, who's a friend of both Dan Markel and Wendi, and what she had to say. Very insightful interview. Now, this is just some of it, not all of it. I will continue to look for the entire interview, but I thought we could take a look. Also, very interesting, a Twitter user emerges who says, I was friends with Wendi, and she thinks that Wendi knew about that her family had done this after the fact and never turned them in. That is this person's position. They go by the moniker Wendi Sucks. And there was lots of discussion on Reddit. And the next time we looked, the whole Wendi Sucks, SUX Reddit account had been removed. But I do have some of it. And what this person has to say is very interesting about both parties. So it gives a richer view of what was going on. And I realized that I have a tendency to try to make these true crime stories and the characters in them black and white. And I don't know if that is just from a lifetime of wanting heroes and villains, or if it's something that humans do to make a more complicated case easier to understand. But she had this Wendi Sucks. I think it's a woman. That was my view of this Redditor. It sounded to me like a woman, but it could have been a man. Sounded like she was fair in some ways with both of them. But we'll take a look at that and your comments right after the break. Stay tuned. Meet you on the other side of the break. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. So I wanted to thank everyone for hitting 10K subscribers. Wow. It was just such a exciting thing to turn the page. I don't know. What is it? Move up in the world? I don't know. It was fun to reach that milestone for this channel for sure. And my boyfriend and I were up celebrating 1 million views and 10K subscribers. Thank you. You made it happen. And I appreciate everyone who subscribes, who listens to my channel. Thank you. This was really a delightful turn of events to hit this milestone for this channel. So let's look at your comments. Human beings, shave rights, Garn 144 said, I don't see where people think she's so pretty. She's average looking to me. She's downright horrible looking inside. She's such a liar, and it's so obvious. She's perjured herself repeatedly here. I sincerely hope she's charged. She was definitely involved with this murder, or his murder. Either way, I'm not sure if it meant this or his, meaning Dan Markel's murder. Yeah, I agree. Do I think that she's beautiful on the inside? No. But I find her an attractive woman. And I think many men did. And I think that's part of the tools that she used. Just because I don't like her personality doesn't change, for me at least, her objective beauty. I can see why it can spoil it for someone if you were looking to date her. But yeah, that's sort of my position on it. But I understand what you mean, human beings. Ali Marcus, KJ8OT, says, just a thought. The kids, meaning Wendi and Dan's kids, are teens now. And you know, they've seen and heard things. No way they haven't seen the endless coverage about their dad's killer. They can turn on their mom and take the stand about what they know in the years since. And this has come up a bunch of times in my reporting on this case or covering this case. And I see what you mean. I would think that Georgia Kappelman et al., those in the prosecutor's office, would not want them to testify because they've been so estranged from Dan Markel's family, especially his parents, who would have raised them, at least partially, that all they know is Wendi's family. And to ask them to turn on the only family that they've ever known or that they ever have any memory of, I don't know. But like we've seen, the wheels of justice turn incredibly slowly. It could be a good time. They may come to this revelation on their own. We don't know. But it's certainly a sensitive situation for Georgia Kappelman. Does she want to approach Wendi's children? Would they want to turn on Wendi? Do they believe what they've been told? So my take on the Adelson family is that they're like a cult, meaning it's all of them against the world. And I can't see them telling the kids or keeping this from the kids. We know when Dan was alive, Donna disparaged Dan so much that he was asking the court to only allow Donna's supervised visitations with her grandchildren, which would have been humiliating for her. But it is a very sensitive, tricky situation. But you're right. In a few years, they may be estranged. There may have already been cut ties. We don't know. But I would think now that they would want to avoid it. Reptiles Genial says, when Wendi was told that Dan was going to survive, the police asked her what she thought should happen to the murderer. She said that the murderer should be severely punished. if it wasn't her family. Oh my God, guilty knowledge. What do you think? Wendi knew about it because she discussed, quote, death, unquote, and, quote, heaven, unquote, with her sons before the day before Dan was, with her sons the day before Dan was executed? Yeah, pretty interesting turn of events. And I was looking at Jeff Lacasse's interview, the end of it, and there was so much stuff that I had just missed because it's so chock-packed. And I thought we would look first at Tamara Demko's interview, and then if we have time, we could look at Jeffrey Lacasse. But first, let's take a quick break. I'll meet you on the other side of the break, and we can get into Tamara Demko when we get back. Stay tuned. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. DZ, thank you so much for the pound or euro 99 pound. I think it's a pound 99 super sticker. Appreciate it. Okay, so shall we look at Tamara Demko's, I think it's, excuse me if I've mispronounced her name. Her testimony, she's often been called the female Jeffrey Lacasse. And Jeffrey Lacasse, who was Wendy's boyfriend, and then conveniently became her ex-boyfriend right before the murder, and would have been traveling right past the murder scene and was basically set up to be the fall guy. So this is, of course, from Deep Dive Crime, and it's called The Friend in the Middle. Professor Lacasse was not the only one, a mutual friend with an analytical mind.
But it became a hard line. They would call it, you're either Team Danny or Team Wendi. And they would actively refer to this.
Danny people that are associated with all.
And Danny himself and Wendi herself. They would say Team Danny and Team Wendi. It was kind of unnerving, actually. And I was like, I don't want to pick a team. I've become friends with her, too. I don't think that any one of them physically pulled the trigger. I think it is extremely odd that Janine all of a sudden is tagging on. I found it extremely odd that Wendy's boyfriend that she was so excited about a few weeks ago was not there. When I was leaving, I said, well, where's your new guy? Shouldn't he be here to comfort you? And she's like, there's no new guy. And I was like, that's interesting timing. There's just a lot of interesting timings that don't feel right here. And and Wendy's gone through a lot. She's gone through a lot with this. So it could just be that she's grieving, and I hope that that's the case. But I wouldn't put it past her father or even her brother to do something that she might not even be aware of.
See, yeah, I have trouble when someone benefits the most. It's like when a CEO of a company says, all these people below me were doing all this possibly illegal stuff, but I didn't know about it. When we know just by living on planet Earth that is not the way these things happen. The person that benefits the most is usually the person, they may be kept out of it because they're going to be the prime suspect. And you can see Wendi in her police interview. I was about to call it an interrogation, but it's really not an interrogation. It's just a police interview. She's just a witness. where she's saying, I know you would think I'm the suspect. Have I been read my Miranda rights? You want my phone? Like, she is expecting all this, and she's ready to fully put on the fake crying and the theatrics. So I've mentioned before, I've often wondered if some of her hysterical crying with Jeffrey Lacasse was her, where she curled into a ball on the floor and was hysterically crying. Was that Wendi Adelson practicing for the time that she would be called into the police station and have to be surprised, just like Dalia DiPolito? Let me see if I can find Dalia DiPolito really quickly, the most famous shot. I interviewed Mark Ebner, journalist Mark Ebner, and he wrote the book with a prosecutor about Dalia DiPolito. She had her husband, she met him as let's use as a prostitute. He hired her as a prostitute. It was like, did not turn out like Pretty Woman. Instead, she was ready she had him, was making plans to have him murdered and got caught. And instead she got caught on an episode of Cops. So let me see if I can just find that one moment where she's told that her husband has been murdered. So he hadn't been murdered, but this was the beginning of it. So we will get back to Tamara. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Most likely knowing me, not. Let's just take a look at Dalia DiPolito, because so many people have been remarking that it's so similar. Hold on one second. Let me just. Okay. Sorry, this is taking me a little longer than normal. I'm a little bit out of my usual element tonight, so I hope you'll have some patience with me. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I just want to get to the part where she's told that her husband has been murdered. No, 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 this is her ordering the hit. Oh, all right. I'll try to find it on a break then. I won't waste your time. Let's get back. But I will show it to you, I promise. It's very similar to Donna. I mean, to Wendi. I keep messing those two up. They're so similar. It's remarkable, no? I keep interchanging their names.
Talking about this Charlie.
Charlie, maybe. Charlie really cares about her and hated Danny for stuff. But her dad, I mean, there was a lot of animosity. I don't know whether she told them that he had been abusive or what. I don't know. But I hope that's not the case. I just, everything I've heard does not feel random at all to me. And it feels incredibly intentional based on based on talking to Amy. She talked to him the night before, and he usually sleeps in bed with the kids. And there were nights when I would go over and we'd sing lullabies to the kids to put them to sleep. And he dropped them off at Creative, and Amy figured he was coming or going from the gym because that was the routine. But it sounds like someone knew the routine.
Going from the creative preschool to the gym to home?
I don't know which order that was. I don't know.
He had the kids the night before?
He had the kids the night before, according to Amy.
Okay.
And the last time they texted was something like 12:30. One of them said that they were going to be, tired, going to sleep. I think she said she was tired and she was going to sleep. And they didn't, they didn't talk that morning.
Okay.
And then she couldn't get a hold of him for the rest of the day, obviously. He was finally feeling happy again. He was feeling hopeful. Things with his kids were great. Wendi was this huge elephant in his life room. I mean, it was consuming. Not that he was obsessed about it, it just he wanted it to end. And it just seemed like it was never going to end. The latest claim was that she had concealed $500,000 in assets, on top of having the family heirloom and other things that he felt were unreasonable. And he had claimed to Maya and to Alex, apparently, that there was something that big that he was going to drop a bomb on her in the next week. A legal bomb that would discredit her statements, particularly with regard to financial matters. Again, the timing of all of it doesn't sit well with me. I have been trying to gauge Wendi's family's reactions to things because I've been around them, and even when she first left him, I mean, I went over to her house. Her parents were staying there. I had a drink with her mom. Like I've seen them and how they react to things, and something feels off. And it could just be, I hope it is, because I don't want Ben and Lincoln to grow up with, really orphaned. And if it does have to do with that family, I hope Wendi had nothing to do with it and is triply devastated that something was related.
Isn't it interesting that this is a mutual friend, Miss Demko, of Dan Markel's and Wendi's, and she keeps saying, I hope Wendi had nothing to do with it. I hope the family had nothing to do with it. Both she and Jeffrey Lacasse were so self-conscious of being seen as conspiracy theorists, loons, jumping to conclusions. But the focus that they had and the things that they were picking up on, they just couldn't forget.
But I don't know. I don't know about the consulting. Maybe there was some risk, but my understanding.
I mean, not to be shallow, but what happened to Katie's, those breasts so Charlie Adelson bought one side of a breast for her role as the middle woman. Sigfredo Garcia, of course, was her baby daddy. They weren't married, but they had children together. They weren't together. And Sigfredo Garcia was just head over heels in love with her. She's not a dumb woman, Katie. But when I saw her on the stand, was it kind of a sports bra, so everything was smushed down? Where were these boobs? Breasts, excuse me. Where were they? Did she have them taken out? It just didn't look like this kind of, very large chest that she has here.
I know about the consulting. Maybe there was some risk, but my understanding was that he was not lead, which shouldn't have made him a target like that. It was fairly recent, and it seems like it would take some time for someone to establish his patterns. It just seems known. The outpouring of messages I've gotten from his students, from my classmates, from my friends, is all past and present. He was a great criminal professor. Students liked him. I don't think it was some strung out student who didn't like their grade. That doesn't feel right to me either. If it was some weird tangential thing related to consulting, I suppose that's from a possibility, but that still doesn't feel quite right. It just feels very personal. It feels very personal. And I want to give benefit of the doubt, but on some gut level, I have this anger that's there. And he didn't deserve this. But
Yeah, I wouldn't call that anger, more like moral outrage and disgust with what her former friend Wendi was involved in, or what she believes she was involved in is a better way to put it.
no, there was never it wasn't just that she was treating him poorly, like in a typical situation. There's strangeness about it, either because she was changing stories or she was being incredibly evasive, and it really bothered him. But I tried to not let it bother my friendship with her and tried to keep them separated, which is not many of their friends did that. People were like Team Danny or Team Wendi. I tried to straddle both. I was probably the only person who was able to straddle both. And it would break my heart, which is actually already broken, so I guess I can't fall too much further. He was going to give a presentation at Rutgers. He was supposed to fly in last night to New York, so they're having a memorial for him there. And I'm so full of memories. I'm just in utter disbelief. I'm almost positive at some point we discussed him having a will. I don't know when in this time frame it was at all. But I feel like he has one. No idea where. He was willing to pacify Wendi for a long time. He wanted to get back together with her. He offered, I'll change, we'll get back together, the important things of the family. She wouldn't have it. And so every time it was the type of thing where if he was going to have an extended period of time away, he would give her right of first refusal. She never returned the favor. If it was only for a little night, and she's like, okay, well, do it.
So does everyone know what that means, right of first refusal? So it means that, say, Dan Markel was going on a business trip. He would offer Wendi, if it were his time with the kids, he would offer Wendi first shot at being with the kids, if she wanted to be with the kids. Wendi never returned the favor. And you see that with this family. It's like, I don't know, there used to be like a Mae West line, take as much as you can get and give as little as possible. That seems to be the Adelson's MO. Just in life, they like to win, like to make suckers out of people, love their status. And for people who've been watching this for years and years and years, it's very satisfying to see people who have enraged us walking around free when we believe that they're involved in Dan Markel's murder. It's very satisfying to see Donna Adelson in a turtle suit or a Ferguson gown. It's used when you are on a watch to end your own life. And just to take a little bit of a break. Hello, my mother's dog just walked in, Corgi. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, girl. Sorry, can you hear that panning? All right, you did. This is going to be an exciting live stream, guys. I'm sure this happened to Walter Cronkite a couple of times. Okay, so I just wanted to show you a great video by Fancy Feast on Donna, if I still have it up. Yeah, here we go. Just as a nice little break for us. So Donna Adelson named let me just pause it here. Donna Adelson named co-conspirator in the murder of her former son-in-law, Dan Markel, was a contestant on Wheel of Fortune in October 1989. Donna solved a puzzle. The category was person. Donna ultimately lost, but gained notoriety later in life for another reason. We all know what that reason was, of course.
And we now meet Donna Adelson from Coral Springs, Florida. I want to hear all about you, Donna. Let's go.
Well, I'm a domestic coordinator.
A domestic coordinator.
Yes. I'm responsible for the activities, classes, and lessons of my son Robert, who is 16, Charlie, who is 12, Wendi, who is 10, my husband Harvey, who's in the audience, and my dog Sam.
All right. And how old is Sam?
5.
5. Well, good. Give him our best. Nice to have you here. And this vowels word nothing. Consonants are going to be words. Can we get 8? We can. All right. So I'm writing on this. Again, person is a category. Stu, still your return letter, please. L. No L. Donna.
M.
Yes, there are 2 M's. Let them come up. You have 5 seconds. Person. Alan. K. Yes, K.
Mustard maker.
Nope,
Mustard
still
maker.
Stu. H, please. Yes, there's 1 H. Time starts now. First. Donna.
F.
Yes.
Mischief maker.
Yeah, that's it, Donna. Yeah. Well, we have 3 winners here, and that's very nice. Congratulations on your $2,900, and thanks very much for being here, Donna. Likewise, you're used to with a pretty good haul, $3,550. Thank you. Well, Alan, we know your favorite condiment.
Wendi Joel Adelson, Esquire, named co-conspirator. Charlie Adelson, convicted of murder. Donna Adelson, now charged with murder. Harvey Adelson, not charged, unnamed, and I don't think will ever be charged in this. So that's where we're at. But it's interesting to see. I mean, you could not make this up, that she has been on a game show and mischief maker. Boy, that's what a coincidence, huh? So back to Ms. Demko, friend of both Dan Markel and Wendi Adelson's. And this is from the Deep Dive True Crimes channel run by Mentor Lawyer. And I believe they have episode 1 and 2 behind a paywall.
Yeah, and she would generally not accept, but she absolutely would never return the favor, even if it meant people coming from South Florida to come and watch the kids. That really bothered him. But the dance that they did was very painful to everyone around them, because it was just nasty. And even on days when she had them, he would go to the preschool just so he could see them and spend time with them. referred to himself as Abba, Jewish tradition, and he really wanted them to be raised Orthodox. And this was a huge bone of contention between the two of them. They agreed on it when they got married. And then over time, she made it fairly clear that she was not into that. So for the first year after the kids were born, first year or two,
Over time, she made it clear Dan Markel showed up to his own wedding and there's no kosher food, neither for himself nor the rabbi. And I believe that the Adelson family were letting it known the way it was going to be from now on. If you were going to marry, we were going to give you our gift, which is our daughter, our only daughter, then then she's going to get her way. And if she wanted no kosher food at the wedding, then she was going to have it. So tough. So it was already setting up a competitive adversarial relationship starting at the wedding. That's my feeling. Let's see what Miss Demko says.
they did the ritual, they sang songs, they were teaching them the songs, everything seemed good. And then she just didn't want to go to temple with him and sort of declined. And then they were actively fighting post-divorce as to what the upbringing would be. And she didn't want them growing up in some kind of Orthodox way. Absolutely not. And she knew that that was his heart. So there was never going to be peace about that. Everyone knows, and I've heard people in town write me when I haven't even commented to them saying, I just heard this is domestic. Have you heard anything? And I'm like, I'm not discussing this. But it's Wendi has all clear. She can move wherever she wants, all that kind of stuff. I don't think she would hurt her children that way. I want to believe that. I could see her getting overwhelmed enough with the situation to complain to someone who would want to make it go away. And I also feel it's weird that her social worker boyfriend, poof, so suddenly after just bragging about him so recently.
When was that? When was the latest time that she was talking about him?
Okay, let me figure out when I guest lectured. I had dinner with Toni on the 4th. I guest lectured on June 17th.
That's the one that you wanted to refer to later, that you were asking me to remind you about?
Yes, so she was bragging about him. She really liked him, and she sent me messages. My messages are going so far back at this point. Let me pull it up.
When you're guest lecturing, she's not there.
We talked before.
Okay.
There's Danny's message. Sorry, it's not here on the 17th. There it is.
Well, this is you. What time is the class in the morning? And after that, you said 10 to 12:30 or earlier. The blue is you.
Yes, believe me.
Okay. And then June 17th at 8:50 a.m. 10, please. I have to run today after class, but can we set up a date so I can thank you and take you to lunch, please? You said, sounds good. This is all referring to the class that day, sometime after the class at 1:47. She says, you are brilliant and beautiful and amazing. Many thanks for teaching class today. And then you said, let's do a double date. I'm sorry, she said, let's do a double date. Yeah.
Okay, so she said, let's do it. I didn't respond to that because that felt weird to me.
Right. But she's referring to the social worker.
Social worker boyfriend.
Do you know his name?
They were Facebook friends. I don't know if they still are. She had his picture up. They've been dating since September. She told me. Dan knew about him. He mentioned him to me when we went to dinner the week before, or a couple weeks before. And his take was kind of like, well, if she's happy, why isn't she just, getting on with her life? He apparently went poof shortly thereafter. That's less than a month.
So what she's pointing out is that she was incredibly excited about Jeff Lacasse, and then she's like, oh, right before the murder, she's like, oh, I'm not that interested, because she was already setting it up that he was very jealous. Jeff Lacasse felt that Wendi had chosen a coffee shop that she knew he would see her in with another man, so he would explode in public, and she could say, look, he's got a jealousy problem. And we've seen in her testimony on the stand, she touches on that every time Jeff Lacasse, pretty much close to it, every time Jeff Lacasse's name comes up, it's all about his incredible jealousy. So tomorrow's like, what's up? 1 minute she's really excited about this guy, and the next minute she can barely remember his name, and he's already a passing fancy.
I guess my question to that would be, he's a social worker. If he wasn't inclined to do something on her behalf, did he just find her to be getting too out of control to be with her? I don't know. Unless it was her decision.
Did she say he was a
Professor of social work.
professor? Okay, so
He's licensed.
FSU or?
Yes, FSU College of Social Work professor. He looked a little bit like Danny, I suppose, looked when he was younger.
You met him?
I did not meet him.
You saw his picture?
I saw his picture. Mm-hmm. And
Is that the only guy in her life?
So, good question. When Danny and I were at Thai food that night for my birthday, Ken Lawson, who is the secretary of DDPR, he happened to be there, and he said hello, and Dan said hello, and I'm fairly certain that Ken and Wendi dated right around the divorce or around the time she left or something around there, but that was just in passing. She's been very close to the vest, and I didn't know she was dating anyone. I mean, I heard from Danny, but then I didn't know from her that was the case. And I don't think he knew from her. I think he knew from other people telling him. So that was kind of odd. And even if they had just broken up and things were good, like I would still be over helping to comfort her yesterday. You know, that's a big deal, especially with a social work background. Like, Janine, according to her husband, I guess, he wasn't there, but Janine was with Wendi when she found out. Janine's like, I went to the police station with her, but it felt I was like, is she an attorney? Is she representing her? It felt very guarded, very, very guarded. Like you like her personal bodyguard now, and almost like guarded with the children around me. And I'm like, that's really weird. You know, Wendy's mom seemed fine. Anyone else, I can't say.
You don't suspect anything suspicious about her mom?
Not so much, no.
But her dad, you're feeling some vibes because of him not wanting to look you in the eye yesterday.
And then today not wanting to look me at all. No.
Did he acknowledge you at all today?
No, he didn't. Not at all.
And we know from the family friend named Clark who gave tips, who helped get Charlie into dental school. And it was interesting. I was listening back to Jeff Lacasse's his police interviews. He was saying that Charlie was some kind of special ed kid, maybe had some kind of dyslexia, which I can't imagine the status the family took too well to. So he was getting very poor grades in dental school. He only made 25% of the credits that he needed to graduate. And so what Harvey did was he went to a Broward County judge and got Charlie pushed through, got him a diploma in that dental school. And then Charlie went to work with Harvey. So that's how that went down.
And he and his son had a dental practice. He was well respected in the community down in South Florida. Shows a lot of resources, and I'm sure that if anything were to take place, they would be extremely smart about it. But I got a vibe from him, like, I know you suspect me, and I'm done.
Okay.
I don't know.
You said that woman that was over there was Janine?
Janine? Mm-hmm.
You know your last name or anything?
Nope. Supposedly she was with Wendi when Wendi was being interrogated. Or at the police station with Wendi at the time she was being questioned.
Okay.
And then Janine's husband. But she was protective in a way that felt a little overprotective.
That was the first time you met her?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Never heard of her before?
mm-mm.
What do you know about her two brothers? I know there's two brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard about this Charlie, and he's a periodontalist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Had worked with her dad, and that's in South Florida. And then her older brother, whose name is escaping me right now, I believe was in New York, doctor married to an Indian descent woman named Haritha. And protective of her, but very kind of separated.
So that is the reason why that Robert fell out of favor from the family. He was always the odd man out growing up, according to the Over My Dead Body podcast. Robert was teased and called Honest Abe because when he got change that was incorrect and that benefited him, meaning he got too much change, he would return it. And Wendi and Harvey and just made fun of him and basically told him the point was that they were making that he was like a sucker and ridiculous for having a moral compass. But he really loved this Indian woman, and he's married to her now and has kids with her. But Donna did not approve, and it's always brought up because he wasn't Jewish. But to my eye, I don't think this is a family where Judaism is really the center. They're not really practicing Jews in the religious sense. I think it was just that she was dark and ethnic looking, and it wouldn't have looked good in the family Adelson photos and the Hanukkah cards to have the oldest son's girlfriend or wife not look waspy, look ethnic. It's always about appearances with this family. Status, appearances, and anyone that challenges them or goes against what they want, very entitled family, they will seek revenge. It's a family obsessed with revenge. Let's just take one quick look at Dalia DiPolito for a second. I found it. It's very quick. So what you have to look at is, so Dalia DiPolito, they set up a sting where she would come home and they would tell her that her husband, who she had used an undercover cop to hire to eliminate off the face of the earth, they just told her husband that he had to leave immediately, and they made a crime scene tape and they told her that he had been murdered. But she starts to cry before the word murder is even out of the cop's mouth. Let's watch it together, shall we? It's 1 minute, 13 seconds.
I'm Sergeant Ramsey. I'm the one that called you. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry to call you. Listen, we had a report of a disturbance at your house, and there were shots fired. Is your husband Michael? Okay, I'm sorry to tell you, man. He's been killed. He's been killed, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's not.
Listen.
No.
So let's even slow that down, shall we? Playback speed. Can we slow it to 0.75, excuse me, and just watch it again? Watch her face.
He's been killed, man.
What?
I'm sorry to tell you, man. He's been killed. He's been killed, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's not.
Listen.
No.
Try to calm down.
No.
Listen, right now, we need to get you to the station.
No.
We need to get you to our police station. I can't let you in, man. We have to do our job. If you want us to find this killer, okay? We need you to calm down. I'm going to need you to go with these detectives, okay? Does he have enemies? Is there anyone that would want to hurt him? Okay, who would want to hurt him? Witnesses said they saw a black male running from me. I can't let you see him, ma'am. Ma'am, I cannot do this right now. Ma'am, I can't do it. Detective Yopi, I need you to take her to the station. I can't. Ma'am, go with these detectives. If you want to help your husband, okay? If you want to help your husband, you need to go to the station with these gentlemen and tell us everything you know about who he knows, who he's connected to. Don't worry, we've already taken care of dogs with animal control for right now. Everything's under control.
So very, very much like Wendi. So she's faking the. You can see just her middle finger is shaking at one point, and she can still talk in full volume. She's just trying to fake the sobbing and fake the labored breathing. And most people find it unbelievable. But of course, that's we're looking in retrospect. So that is, oh, did that not? Hold on. Did you guys see that? Did that not? Yeah, so that is Dalia DiPolito, another very famous Florida murder for hire case. So let us finish up with this part of Miss Demko's thing, police interview, and we will look at Jeffrey Lacasse's, some of the end of that. It's interesting that they're on such similar pages.
Involved with his own life and his family. Charlie was the one who was closer.
Charlie's older than her as well?
Charlie's the younger one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait, no. I guess Wendi is the youngest. It's just that Charlie's younger than I am too,
Okay.
so. But I was down there in their house. I was trying to help her learn how to breastfeed with Danny there and brother. And when they split up, I went down and met with Wendi and went out with Wendi and Charlie and his friends. It's mind-blowing, but the legal situation was getting to another point where it was blowing up.
He somehow found out that she withheld financial disclosure
Yes,
and was going to use that
yes.
for what purpose?
It was to discredit her and have things adjusted, I believe, including getting back his heirloom.
Okay, he told you this.
Yes.
Okay, and he told you the figure of.
What kind of monster holds on to a Holocaust diamond that was from Dan's family? What is there even in defense for doing that? Especially as a Jew. I mean, how callous, how cruel. But I guess that's what we've come to expect from Wendi Adelson.
$500,000 is what he
Danny
said.
told you that directly?
Yes.
So in other words, when they were going through their divorce proceedings and they each had to file disclosure statements,
Correct.
she shorted it by $500,000.
He said she fraudulently did it, yes.
And he didn't bring it up then. Or he didn't know about it then.
He didn't know about it then.
But he's discovered it since.
Yes.
And so.
And he talked about it even before we went to dinner on my birthday.
Did he talk about it to anybody else that you know of?
I'm sure he talked about it to Alex and Maya. Now, he also talks about stuff, I'm sure, to his parents, because when I met Ruth, Ruth was trying to talk to Donna Adelson, Wendi's mom, and saying, like, oh, I really like to see the boys. And, like, Donna just kept walking away.
Who was saying that?
Ruth.
Right.
Said to Wendi's mom, Donna. Today at the service, I'd really like to see the boys. And Donna kept walking away with the boys. And Ruth turned to me and she said, I hope what I just saw didn't actually happen. Like, she just got ignored.
Oh.
And she said that, she's like, well, I guess that's not going to happen. But you know the story. So obviously, I infer that Dan had been talking to her and the family about these problems.
Danny's a jealous guy, Jeff is a jealous
Okay.
guy.
All right.
That as a social worker, I would be.
Well, let me ask you this. If Jeff is the new guy, why would he feel like?
Just because he's, because this is something I wouldn't say in front of Wendy.
Okay.
I thought you said something I wouldn't say. I'm like, I'm right here.
As a doing the kind of work that I do, I would think, there's this person, and then he loves Wendy. Danny makes Wendy's life very difficult. Wendy is currently making his life very difficult. I don't know him to be a lunatic, but he's a jealous guy.
Okay. All right.
That's what I would
Very
say. He's my colleague, so.
So did you see that? So when Wendy's friend said he's a jealous guy, Wendy just nods her head affirmatively. So look at Wendy here. Wait, hold on. Let's see if I.
Loves Wendy. Danny makes Wendy's life very difficult. Wendy is currently making his life very difficult. I don't know him to be a lunatic, but he's a jealous guy.
Okay. All right.
That's what I would
Very
say. He's my
See, Wendy's like, thank you. I don't have to make that argument. I don't have to throw him out any more under the bus than I already have. Now I have my flying monkeys to do it for me.
colleague. So he's somebody I think of as a decent guy.
That would be who now?
Jeff Lacoste is my
Okay.
colleague.
Okay. All right.
Are you leaving?
Yes, I'm being kicked out.
Oh, really?
Really. But I can come get you if you need me.
Okay.
Okay? So if you can't drive, it's no problem.
What's
You
your
know-
number, Jane, so I can give you a call?
321-4657. I'm happy to come get you. I'm happy to come get you. You need to talk to these guys.
Can you make sure someone goes to see Danny? I guess they're gonna do
You're
that.
gonna
That's
do
not
that,
your
right?
job.
You're gonna make sure that there's
I know Sergeant Baldwin, when I was out there, I've been talking to her when you
It's
were
really
there, so they were
critical
working
that
on that.
that he be blessed today.
Oh,
It's absolutely
okay.
critical
Gotcha.
that he see
Okay.
that a rabbi go there. Absolutely critical.
All
Okay,
Alright,
bye. Thank you for coming.
Okay, I am available to you. I'm going now, but
Yeah.
this is a process and you're gonna move through it. Thank
Okay.
you. I'm glad. Thanks very much. And these guys were very generous to let me come in here at all. So thanks very much for
You're
that.
welcome. I'll be back.
Bye-bye.
When I get back, we are going to look at the Redditor who knew both Wendy and Danny and look at what he or she had to say about the relationship at the time of Dan's murder. Stay tuned. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. So I just wanted to read it to you. Let me see if I wish I had a something more interesting to look at while I read it, but here is the post, and of course many people were saying, oh, this has to be Wendy's defense team, et cetera, and then this person was arguing that they were were chills for the defense. They weren't moles. They weren't into change public opinion, appeal to the court of public opinion. So it starts out like this. This is in the Dan Markel murder Reddit. And the name of the original poster is Wendi Sucks, S-U-X. And of course, Wendi with an I. I knew Wendi before the murder. Thoughts and ramblings. Edit post was too large, so I cut it into 3 via replies below. I know Wendi personally and was close to her at the time of the murder. Posting from an alt account because I don't want to catch heat from a bunch of murderers and fanatics. I cut off contact with her a year and a half ago, or 2 years after the murder, for a few reasons. She moved to Miami, meaning Wendi moved to Miami. She became extremely guarded after the murder and basically disappeared for about a year. And obviously, when the evidence started coming out, it was obvious that she was a gross person. Almost exactly a year to the date of the murder, she sort of peeked her head back into the world and started trying to tap and email her old professional and social networks. I decided to not bite. My thoughts based on my interactions with her around the time of the murder, I genuinely don't think she knew about the murder. I do think she had a strong suspicion because of her big mouth, family making constant jokes about it. The Adelsons are masters of BS, my words, not theirs, and self-deception in ways I'll elaborate below. But you never know if what they were saying was real or if they were actually believed what came out of their own mouths. Starting about 2 years prior to the divorce and during the divorce, she was a pathetic mess of a human. She basically did whatever her family told her to do. She was always crying, saying stupid, embarrassing stuff, my word, not theirs, playing pretend. It was super disconcerting and cringe. Used to walk around with those keychains that are a little silicone pig that have poop coming out if you squeeze them. She would sit there glassy-eyed in professional settings, squeezing it and saying how much it made her happy to squeeze the pig and how awful her life was at the moment. And squeezing the pig was one of the few things that gave her joy. She did this to Sandy Danbrit and his wife once after Sandy had just finished arguments to the Supreme Court of Florida. We were outside the courthouse. They just sat there staring at I think they mean her, and I was so embarrassed for her. I just wanted to jump in front of a car and make it go away. During this time, her family could have easily told her to break the TV and she would have done it without question. Wendi is smart. Wendi is also a puppet for her family. I'm sure she put the clues together after the fact, and I'm sure she unquestionably followed every order from Donna and Charlie. Hold on one second. Hold on one moment, please. Okay, thank you for your patience. I'm dealing with a lot of unusual things, being in a different location, working with different equipment, and my mother's Welsh Corgi is insisting on joining me for this live stream. So thank you for the patience. Okay, during this time, her family could easily have told her to break the TV, and she would have done it without question. Wendi is smart. Wendi is also a puppet for her family. I'm sure she put the clues together after the fact, and I'm sure she unquestionably followed every order from Donna and Charlie. See, I don't see her as passive like that. I see her as totally involved. I think if she would have done what what Donna just told her to do, unquestioning, why didn't she convert the children to Catholicism or dress them up in SS uniforms? So yes, Donna is pushy, but Wendi, I don't think does anything that Wendi doesn't want to do. That's my impression of her. Let me know what yours is. Regarding her drive to Trescott, when I lived in Tally, that ABC Liquors was by far the nicest liquor store, not on Kilburn toward Georgia. I only went to that liquor store. Benton Hills Road and the surrounding neighborhoods were super pretty and also convenient because the other roads were also trafficky and annoying. So I took a similar path to get to various places in Tallahassee and knew others who did. It was much nicer drive than going to other busier, sketchier places in Tallahassee. What I do likely think happens is she drove by, saw the police tape, put it together that her family was in fact not joking about murdering her husband and freaked the F out. I bet she was an absolute mess at her lunch after. I also think she found the truth out very quickly after the fact and is a massive, disgusting piece of poop, my words, not hers, for having her kids raised by murderers and for protecting them to this day. Other facts. Lacasse is right. She was likely sleeping with multiple people and constantly hitting on others. She married super young and had zero life experience. When she was in her early to mid 30s, she was really like a 17-year-old playing an adult. She had some clinical students and would hit on them in cringy ways. Well, we know psychopaths, if Jeff Lacasse is right and Jeff Lacasse's therapist is right, and Wendi is a psychopath, that they are hypersexual. There was one guy that was in her clinic that openly said they were sleeping together. She never denied it and would just angrily exit whatever room we were at when he said that. Her teaching assistant was so freaked out by her weirdness that after the murder, he thought he would be a primary suspect. The guy was miserable for months. The dumb ass book she pushed was a nightmare. She was obsessed with being a published author before 35, some kind of standard of excellence that both her family and Markel's family put out there. The book was terrible, horribly edited, poorly written, but her family is really, really smart when it comes to self-promotion. Her dad took the cover picture, and she would run various edited versions of it by me and others. She used to cry and talk about how her in-laws were a-holes and were putting her work down and basically pooped on everything she did. My words, not hers. She would set up these events to, quote, talk, unquote, about her book or give talks on human trafficking and invite all her colleagues and students and friends. You could show up and the talk would be her standing behind a table packed with books and basically guilting you into buying the book. I believe her family did similar things. They sold a lot of books this way. I have a signed copy of this thing somewhere. It was awful. They were really good at creating captive audiences. Harvey used to have Wendi come and give presentations at little dentist gatherings, and then she would list that on her CV as if it was a real conference. Many things like that. Her whole life has basically been mapped out by her mother and enforced by her father. That's what I said before. She's really following the blueprint of Donna's life. Donna went on a game show. Wendi went on a game show. Donna married a Jewish statusy successful man. I assume Donna married a dentist for the same reason. You really felt bad for her, or a wannabe dentist. You really felt bad for her because she was barely a person. Her mother made her be a contortionist. Maybe she made her run for nonprofit at 14, was constantly in Tallahassee, and would always pull Wendi to the side in social or professional events and give her little pep talks and coach her on how to act. She was definitely not marrying for love. All right. I'm going to take a quick break. When I get back from the break, we will read the rest of this mysterious Reddit post. Many people suggested it is a plant from Wendi's defense team. Very curious to hear what you think. We will be reading the rest of it when we get back from this minute break. Meet you on the other side of the break. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. Okay. Maybe we could take a look at it at Donna's, excuse me. Donna's arrest record. Okay, the circles of friends were split. Okay. She definitely did not marry for love. She married Markel because he was rich, Jewish, Harvard educated, and fit her mother's life plan for her. I think that's correct. Markel loved her, but thought she was beneath him. She was a wife for him that he felt affection for, but not an equal partner in his eyes. This killed her because she was Cambridge educated and grew up being told she was the greatest thing in the world. Remember what Jeffrey Lacoste said about her? The worst thing that you could do to Wendi is point out that she wasn't perfect. Okay, collecting little BS achievements engineered by her mother along the way. Their circle of friends was split, Team Wendi and Team Dan Markel. Markel was not interested in her friends. He wanted to always talk theory and Jewish liturgy and topics that he felt were important. He was extremely arrogant and condescending. He had standards and never deviated from them. He was also very kind and generous and really believed in loving others. But he was not someone you wanted to be around if you didn't want to be around intense arguments and judgment at all time. It wasn't fighting, it was arguing. And he just wanted to debate or discuss anything and everything. Of course, I'm very sympathetic to this. I get a lot out of debate. I get a lot out of different points of view. I don't really understand the kind of viewpoint that we all have to agree. I enjoy talking to people who don't agree and seeing and listening to their arguments. A lot of people could not stand him, including other professionals. He would have housed and fed you and clothed you off the street. Let's read that again. Dan Markel would have housed and fed and clothed you off the street, but would have berated you and argued with you the entire time. That kind of guy. Wendy's friends were from school, lawyers she met along the way, her students. She wanted to talk about organizing and saving people, but also silly things. She could be fun when she dropped her act. In fact, she had two distinct personalities. One is a clearly an act, just like she sounds on the witness stand, slow and deliberate. So that's the fembot personality, okay? The other personality is just a normal person. This always came out when she was complaining about something or tapped into joking around and being silly. But actress Wendi would come out when she wanted a favor or compliments or to hide something. It was super obvious that she was always trying to do, and I don't think she realized how marked the difference is between her being honest and acting. Back then, Wendi was basically a kid still. She was obsessed with being a hero and saving the world. She wanted to be a legendary human trafficking a lawyer, an asylum lawyer. At the time, she had no experience, had never even seen a case through, and no one professionally blowing smoke up her behind. My words, not theirs. It was the first time she wasn't around her family telling her how amazing she was the entire time, and it really messed her up. She would look and beg for validation from every corner. A lot of conversations were her complaining, my word, not theirs, about how Dan Markel, his family, and their colleagues were rude to her. This is in fact true. All right. Is there anything in this? The 2 years prior to the murder, she was a huge mess. Lacoste may be a good researcher, but he must have the worst read on women. She wasn't on drugs to my knowledge, but she acted like she was. I don't think he ever said she was on drugs. I thought he said she drank her dinner most nights. We were at a professional event one time, and she was there with another professor as her date. I believe this was mid to late 2013. The guy was someone younger than Lacoste. The dude was wearing the wrinkliest suit I have ever seen. Her hair was all over the place. They both had bloodshot eyes. We were talking about a client at UM who also runs a clinic, and Wendi just loudly started going off about what a B this lady was. Everyone stopped what they were doing to watch, and she wouldn't STF you. Things like this were constantly happening. Anyway, this is just a picture of her at the time. She was barely a functioning human, total family puppet, probably too much of a hot mess to help plot this murder. Probably too much of a hot mess to believe they were actually plotting the murder. As years passed, I always hoped she would distance herself from her family, but instead she doubled down and became one of them. Really sad and gross if you knew her before all this had happened. So what are you guys' thoughts? Do you think that that is a real friend of Wendy's? Do you think that's someone from Wendy's legal team posing as a friend who knew her during the time? Or do you think she's exactly what she says she is? Very interesting take. Certainly not my take, but gives me a lot to think about. one last break, and when we come back from the break, I'm gonna look at Gibbers as a new. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. Okay. I'm trying to. Okay. Here. It's called Bad Takes, the trial of the Adelsons, bad insiders on the Adelsons. And I just wanted to bring your attention. I didn't have time to put this. I will put the link to this in the description of the video as soon as I sign off. But I wanted you to take a look at it because I've been listening to Carl Steinbach, who believes Tim Jansen is doing defense work or PR work for Wendi Adelson by saying they just don't have enough on her. And he seems to think that it was awfully strange that Tim Jansen knew before anyone that Wendi had been arrested, and he connects it to Wendy's lawyer, hearing it from Wendy's lawyer. Harvey must have called. He was let go at the airport. He may have called Wendy's lawyer or Charlie's lawyer, Rashbaum, and it may have gotten to Tim Jansen. That's his theory on it. Let me know what you think. If you think that he seems very interested. I mean, how would he know that Wendi went and to talk to a lawyer about Castigar issues? And this video makes some interesting points about these insiders on the Adelson. Of course, this is the Gibbers channel. We're killing it with these videos.
All facts of this case is horrible. A divorce would have been a much easier way to resolve this thing.
Tim, to you, from Angela, Sigfredo Garcia, the trigger man, is on the witness list. Do you think the state uses him?
Absolutely will be called as a witness. She gave no independent, credible evidence. Her lawyers were not even present, and it was fruitless. You can't use her as a witness.
But remember, as Castigar instructs us, use and derivative use immunity statutes, like the Fifth Amendment itself, grant neither pardon nor amnesty. Both allow the government to prosecute using evidence from legitimate independent sources.
Does Wendi have total immunity, Tim?
Yes, she doesn't have full immunity. She was given derivative use immunity, which means, and it's not just use immunity, it's derivative use immunity. Anything she says cannot be used to go find leads, and it's really hard to get around.
Can you please name one piece of evidence that the state attorney's office only knows of from Wendi Adelson's testimony? I can't think of a single thing. We need specifics. Anything off the top of your head, Tim?
Well, I can't say right off the top of my head.
She was given derivative use immunity, meaning anything she said at the trial could not be used against her.
Well, she has derivative use immunity.
Use and derivative use immunity statutes both allow the government to prosecute using evidence from legitimate independent sources.
And the defendants, he survived cross-examination. He did a really good on direct. Right now, I think it's 50-50 on a hung jury.
The whole facts of this case is horrible. A divorce would have been a much easier way to resolve this thing.
Talk about saying the obvious. Why wouldn't they just get divorced? So I am going to cut it short there for tonight. I will be back tomorrow to talk a little bit more about this. I'm not sure how to feel. I'm not sure how to feel. You know, sometimes these lawyers, certainly, I don't know, Carl Steinbeck, from the Mentor Lawyer channel, had me convinced that maybe there is some connection between Tim Jansen and the Adelsons. I'm sorry, I grew up with a family called the Adelsons, so it's been a challenge. The Adelsons, maybe he's connected to the Adelsons defense, and he seems to be putting out very positive things about Wendi. She'll never be tried. She can't be tried. She has to be shown that she put this into action. And that's my understanding, is that she just needs to be shown as a conspirator, but should be interesting to see how it plays out. Thank you so much for watching this. Tomorrow, I think I'd like to look at least at some of Jeffrey Lacasse's, once again, some of his questioning by the police. He certainly seemed to really understand Wendi and understand her personality makeup and find her reactions concerning. She was very upset that Jeff Lacasse went to Dan Markel's memorial service. That's certainly hard to defend. And it'll be interesting to see what state, or what is the state of the relationship between Wendi and her two kids in, I would think, 2 years, if Donna makes it to trial. I would think it would be about 2 years. And if it would not traumatize them or not hurt their family or not hurt their psyche to testify against their mom. They don't have any other parent. So it is a delicate situation. Have a great night, everyone. I will see you back here tomorrow.